I'd like to call to order the Board of Finance meeting for March 2nd, 2023 at 7:04 p.m. Welcome, everyone. Do we have, I know we have Christina on the screen. Do we have alternates on the screen? I don't think we need them.
Jim's on. I'm not sure who's on or not.
Okay. All right. When they come in, maybe you can mention it. Okay. I don't think we need to seat any alternates. We're going to again dispense with the approval of minutes, but here's my plan to get you guys the minutes before the next meeting, which will be our first meeting of deliberating. It'll be a good review for everyone to see what the presenters have said according to the minutes, and go from there. So I'll get them to you earlier than, I'll get them to you early so you have time to read them. And we probably will wait on the 16th. That was the SBC presentation until the next regular meeting, since that was a regular BOF meeting. And that's it on that. Present to speak. Anyone in the room who would like to speak? Seeing none. Anyone online who would like to speak, please raise your hand or put up your little yellow hand there. Doesn't look like we have one. Is it to you, Sam?
No.
Okay. Well, you'll get a chance later at the end of the meeting. So let's just go right into the presentation, if that's okay with you, Erica.
Sure.
For the selectmen's budget. Where are your friends? Are they kind of fair weather or about?
They are.
They may be
know
online.
Is Mr. McCoo, some of our department heads here in the room and some online. So you received a budget from the Board of Selectmen last week that was $4,301,546. You received today an update from me. We've said that as we have information that we think is pertinent, and for this, regardless of the cost, we want to pass that along. You heard from Superintendent Stevens last week that we were able to lock in fuel prices lower than what we had budgeted. So we done our work to true up those numbers based on the number of gallons that we purchased. And so that number is now reflected in this budget, as well as a projected increase in some DMV fees in the revenue collector line items that saved $950. So not much, but together those are additional savings of $6,518. So before you begin deliberations, we want to make sure you had the most accurate information.
Okay.
So that brings the total budget before you to $4,295,028. If I could share my screen.
Sure, let me stop sharing.
As I go through the departments, you will be able to see the budget that we're talking about. All right. So you can see the total increase for the selectmen budget is 8.17%. So in this document, it's a little bit bigger for you. Rounds up to 8.2%. To say we were comfortable with that would be an overstatement. I don't think any of those selectmen were comfortable with an 8% increase. But the cost of services across the board were significant in some areas. So some assumptions with this total budget: salaries are an increase of 2.75. That is in line with the current CBA. Heating fuel was estimated at $319. The new cost is down to $2.9256. And diesel fuel, originally budgeted $3.27, is now $30348. So those are both. One is slightly less than last year, a penny less, and the other is slightly more, maybe 4 cents more. So the locked-in rate we got was much better than we had anticipated. We eliminated the one in employee insurance placeholder we had in this budget to try to save. We recognize there's risk involved there, but we felt comfortable that we could do that this year. Workers' compensation insurance and liability increase, they're capped at 3% plus exposure. Our health insurance premiums, we've locked in our medical at 7.5. We saw some increases at 30% for some places. So when we had the opportunity to lock it at 7.5, we did. We've seen more favorable numbers in years past, but this year was not looking so good. So I think we've done better than some of our neighbors. Dental and life are at a not to exceed 3% increase. Our IT services are looking at an 8% increase, and that's a shared service with the Board of Ed.
Tell me why that's going up to 8. Is that just typical for everyone pretty much, or?
I think right now, last year they had budgeted, they had anticipated a larger increase, and Nova's kind of ate that across the board. And this year they just couldn't continue to be competitive in their world and continue to maintain staff. And with a lower increase, so 8% is what we're looking at. Look, I would love for them to come back and say it's going to be less, but at this point, we have not heard anything.
There's not really an
Other than that.
increase in services.
No,
It's not part of the cyber insurance. That's a separate line.
that's correct.
Which line number are you on?
I'm not
She's
yet, so
not-
I'm giving you
she's
some of the
just doing the,
assumptions. So now I'm gonna
letter,
delve into
budget
each
letter.
department. All right, so you can see that the first department is the selectman's office. And there's a slight increase in that department, 2.4% or $3,884. The majority of that is salary related. There's also an addition of $500 in the commissions area. So that's the Historic District Commission. Needs some additional items for some certificates that would be necessary in that historic district. We also saw a reduction in our dues to CROG and CCM, and that was mostly due to the census. So we pay per capita, and so we saw a decrease there. All right. And on your sheet, the non-shaded areas are selectmen budgets, the rest you hear separately. So the next department is accounting services, that's our finance office. So the biggest increase, there you see increase in salaries. The assistant business manager and the account analyst, you see larger than the 2.75. Those are union employees who are seeing a step increase, as well as, you need that figure, John?
No, you said shaded, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, but. It's not the same color. I mean, it's
It's
not.
slightly shaded, so, oh, I gotta go
I'm not
a
that
little
bad,
bit
really?
worse than this. Come on. Yes, look at my old eyes, can see. So some, there are 2 employees there that are union employees that will see the 2.75 plus a step increase. And so you'll see that work out to be larger than the typical increase. We're also asking for additional dollars in the training and education department in that area, and that will allow our current payroll coordinator to get some new training. She's new to our office, and that is vital to her role. We also saw a 5% increase in the annual software support that brings you these numbers. So an overall 5.8% increase in that department. The assessors department is the next department. You actually see a decrease in there. So there was an increase in all of the salaries once everything is trued up. And we share, if you recall, we share the part-time assessor with the town of Bolton. And so that number represents half of the cost of benefits as well as salary.
Okay, so that's the offset.
So that's the assessor services. That's why you see 0.
57,788.
Yes, in the salary and and a new assessor services.
And that, so that, are we still sharing then?
We share that with the town of Bolton.
Is that a 50/50?
It is a 50/50, so that is our portion of salary and benefits. So it's all paid from the town of Bolton.
Can I just ask about that? Because I think we'll probably get to it more when we get down to land, to building. And
No,
land.
we're not talking about building on this project, but
Land.
yeah, no, they.
Okay. Well, then it's a good thing we're talking about, because, because I'm thinking about Henry Rupert and some of that, is that a 50/50 share? that
Oh,
we
in the
did?
building department, I'm sorry, I'm thinking in land use. So the building department, no, we do not split an employee. We contract service from the town of Bolton, so it's a smaller number of hours. The assessor, we actually split in half.
Okay, because it's a contracted service, but we're paying their benefits, is that right?
Not in Bolton, we pay a set amount, we pay a contracted amount. The assessor is a split employee, so it's an employee that is here half of the time and there, so the assessor and the building official are different. They both happen to be shared with or utilized from the town of Bolton, but different.
So does that mean the
Structure.
assessors in our offices have to week?
Yes.
What are those days?
Right now she's here Monday and Thursday, and she does longer days. And I'd say that those are the scheduled days. She has been here many more hours than that. And
Okay.
she's Tuesday and Wednesday in Bolton. But this week she was working on finalizing our grand list. So she worked here Monday and Tuesday and switched her days to Wednesday and Thursday there. And most days she has been coming, I think almost every week since she began here, she's been here on Fridays.
So the expectation of hours on a normal week are,
It's based on a 37.5 hour week, and she works half of those here in Wellington and half of those in Bolton. So it is.
so it's 19, yeah. Right,
When she is here, on the one stipulation both towns had is that that person be in the building on our late night. So our late night is different than Bolton. So that's why she's here on Mondays. Tuesday is their late night.
okay.
All right.
Okay,
Moving on to the revenue department, there's a 6.9% increase there, or $6,152. Once again, we're asking for an increase in the revenue collector salary above the 2.75. I do have some comparisons to other towns to Wellington for you all to look at. And as well, last year, the amount given, actually, I know you had discussed, will go a little bit, we'll give you a little bit more. And when you only look at percentages, it didn't increase any more than our contractual obligations. So the current employee had some contractual information upon becoming certified. She is certified municipal tax collector, which I think is fantastic, both for the town and for her. And that came with, so she negotiated some salary increases there. And you see a reduction in office supplies. Last year, we had asked for additional funds because we need to purchase 2 new check readers. And this year we don't need to do that, so reduce that line item. And then the DMV fees, that was a reduction. Our original request was $2,650. But again, a program that's used in that office, we had anticipated an increase, is remaining flat. So we reduced from $2,650 to $1,700.
oh,
If you were to look at the budget I sent you last week, the request was $2,650
right, and you reduce that
to
to,
$1,700.
okay.
Legal fees, we have left those flat. I would love to say we knew how much we were going to spend, but those are as needed. And I will tell you lately, we are using a lot of them.
Okay, and what about the land use attorney though? Is that still? you didn't adjust that, that's still,
No.
you're asking for 10,000?
Yep, that remains flat.
And is there any, since that's, for 8 months into the year, not really tracking, is that?
Sometimes it depends on applications that come through the
Mhm.
land use department. If we were, it varies. So I think we're up to date with, legal fees. I may have signed one, we may get a new billing this week. And I don't remember if they're never in the current month. They're always a month or two behind in billing. But I would say it's tracking to stay under budget. But again, you don't know you need legal till you know you need legal.
Who is that person for us? The land use
The
attorney?
land use attorney, we use Heller and Sage.
With that current year spending, that's significantly under this despite the warehouse and, all that captures that entire.
Captures the work that's been needed in land use, yeah. Town clerk, excuse me, looking at a 5.7% increase or $6,409. Again, there are some salary increases there. The town clerk is budgeted higher than the 2.75 because we anticipate in the next fiscal year, she will be a certified town clerk. Her test would be at the end of this fiscal year. So the negotiated increase would kick in the July 1 budget. And then the assistant, again, more than 2.75, because I believe there's a step there as well. And then in purchase services, you see a $2,500 increase. Most of that is 5% increase budgeted for the COT software. That is the state software we use for land recordings. We don't have a finalized, but she has been given an estimated 5% increase expected.
Do we pay that late in the year typically? Or late in the fiscal year? I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't know if it's in a one-time, the COT payment. But you're saying because you can see a zero, we haven't paid anything.
This is zero.
Yeah, and you can see the year before, we definitely paid enough, so it may be that they bill once a year. We'll look at that, I don't have an answer to that currently. Okay. Moving down, let's see. The town office building is the next increase. Again, this is significant, but this captures the increase in computer expense. You see a almost $28,000 increase. That increase is made up of two things. One, the 8% increase in IT services, and we share that with the town. We have I believe we're a 53-47 split. So we pay the town pays 53% of the contract, the Board of Ed pays 47%. Additionally, there's a $16,000 one-year IT project that would bring the senior center in line with town IT services. We received pricing on both the town and the library to come online so that we could be sure that there was adequate protections within town systems. The library thus far has not wanted to do so. But this is 16,000 is a one-time project, so that is separate. So something to consider.
That's to bring the senior center on.
Yes. So all of their devices would then be monitored within the town. And so they do have public devices. We have a staff member there now. That particular device is included in the managed services here. The managed services would not go up. They believe they can take care of that within their current contract. This would be a one-time bringing everything in line and some new hardware that would be necessary. And then the ongoing expense would not see an increase because of servicing that particular area.
Okay, and when you say monitoring, is it a security thing or what is it?
So it's just the way our systems are contained, make sure that they're protective firewalls, that Storage of documents is maintained. They're pretty unprotected there. And our IT certainly shows concern, and we have town computers there now that we have a staff member there. So there's certainly concern and reason to do that. So we also ask our seniors, encourage our seniors to utilize those public computers. And so for me, I think it's important that if we're providing something to them, that we can say that it's safe for them to use. If that's the only access they have to a computer, whether it be the library or the senior center, and that's where they might be doing personal things. There's certainly an inherent risk, but I think to some extent, assuring them that their use online is safe and secure is important.
It just kind of
But it
seems
is-
like a bite. you
It is a
know,
bite. It is a
so
bite, so it is.
We weren't in a situation where we could bid it. Or were we? I mean, is it an existing vendor that we just had to work through?
It's an existing, so it's our IT Novus. So Novus would do the change, they'd come on board with us, and then next year you wouldn't see that, right? You'd see a decrease in that. And then the managed service that we have between the town and the school,
No, I'm just, in a previous life,
yeah,
my chief of police always said, this is a one-time cost, it'll come down next year, and it never did.
yeah,
ever.
so, well,
There
you
was some
know,
other
you're gonna
one-time
see
cost.
other areas where I had a
Yes.
one-time cost and it comes down. And unless they increase their fees, if the town side went up that much money, I wouldn't imagine.
No, I.
But it is certainly an area where, we have more discretion, so.
What is the population there? And I'm not just,
So population,
well, I mean, like, how many people does it serve?
I don't know the number of seniors in Wellington, I don't have that number in front of me.
Or, just in the facility with staff and people? who
Well, I mean,
like
there's
to
one-
come and-
There's one staff member, but it's open to see all seniors,
Yeah,
so I don't know what that population is off the top.
okay.
I don't know that number.
Do you know how many people live in the housing that's
I
down
don't-
there?
I don't know if I have
Okay.
that number here.
All right.
Some other noticeable differences in this, in line 430, maintenance and miscellaneous, you'll see a decrease of $5,000. We had a one-time project to put a new air unit in the vault. So you'll see a reduction of that next year, from $19,000 to $14,000. And that $14,000 is for maintenance on this very spectacular building. So it's a small amount in the event something happens. Postage, you see a $2,000 increase. Once again, postage is anticipated to go up. And we accounted for that. Custodial services added a 5% increase. That is a contract, a 2-year contract that will go out to bid this year. And industry-wide, and based on numbers we were seeing, we anticipate a 5% increase. So again, the biggest in there is that 27,000. Of that 27,16 is the senior center, so certainly more discretion with that dollar amount.
And you thought you needed to, I'm sorry, what did you say about the maintenance?
It's a 2-year contract, and it will go out to bid. So the new 2-year contract will be July 1, so we anticipate a 5% increase is what we're budgeting for.
Okay, am I looking in the wrong? place?
Custodial services,
No, I'm looking at
590.
maintenance.
maintenance, and miscellaneous, that's the maintenance of this building, and that's decreased by $5,000. Because last year it included a one-time project, but the cost of supplies with that increase didn't reduce it completely. Excuse me. Next department is town hall operations. That is what some refer to as the old town hall. We left that, the two, with the maintenance flat, and then there is electricity and oil. And you see a big savings there, $20. Consulting engineers, we reduced those from $10,000 to $7,500. in an effort to save some funds. Next department is senior center operations. Although there is a staff member at the senior center that is under the human services department, so you, that's included in this budget. It will show later as a transfer out, but you heard that when Jenny came and presented her budget to you, so that individual is in the human services department as opposed to the senior center operations. So the senior center operations is asking for an increase of $9,794 or 24.7%. You can see clearly the bulk of that is in their maintenance and miscellaneous. They have several maintenance items, many of which need to be addressed, but half of their current $7,500 budget, half of it went to maintenance contracts for upkeep of their systems, the annual inspections of particular items that have to be done, the fire system, the smoke alarms, they have some things in the kitchen that have to be done. So that left really for roughly $4,000 to take care of the town assets, to maintain any maintenance that might come up in a town building. Not much at all, is it? So it's really, they had one repair on something this year that has put them over budget. It was $4,800. So the increase of $7,500 will go towards some known things that need to be addressed. And Troy and I went in to sit down with the folks at the senior center to kind of go through the list to see of their known maintenance items, what Public Works could assist with, and working to get some budgetary numbers on the others. And certainly because at this rate, they don't have any funds. When we had a vendor, and Troy can speak to exactly what it was, we had a vendor come in to give us an estimate on a particular issue they were having. And it caused a repair just from.
Yeah, the expansion tank. On the bottom is like a little plastic valve, and he went to grab it and the valve, it like came apart. And that was it. So it had to be replaced.
Oh gosh.
Yes,
But do you feel like it needs to be, the budget needs to be doubled for it? I mean,
yes. Again, they have some known things now that need to be done, and you can see that they're overspent, and they did one repair. One repair. The rest of it was regular system maintenance that need to be done, checking the fire extinguishers, the fire alarm panels, when MCOR comes in to do their annual checks, cleanings on the systems there. So that left under $4,000 in which to handle a repair in the senior center. And you can see in 21-22, they spent $11,000. Their original budget was $4,000. So we do know that there are some known things. I was clear that that $7,500 increase would not take care of all of those items. They would have to prioritize what they could do with that.
how old are those facilities?
The senior center,
Now,
yeah,
what year are we in?
23. Was it 6?
So,
Using the map.
No.
12?
12, 14? Before that? I don't know.
You think it was around 2014? Is that what you said?
Before that?
No, oh, 12 years.
No, it's more than 12 years. I don't know the exact date.
Okay,
It's like coming up on 20.
Is it 20 already? See, time flies. when
Well, I
you're-
mean, everything's just going.
yeah, right,
But yeah, so we're working to
More,
get.
it's like 50, between
services.
50 and
all right,
20.
just curious
Yes.
about that.
So they did provide the selectmen with a list of known maintenance issues. And currently they're working to determine whether or not some of the funds that they have, the Seniors Inc., who manages the building, if they have some to do some of those now. Next item is Department 2, yes.
I'm kind of fried right now. Can you just remind me what these two leases are? You had them on the other page, the electric and,
Thank you. for asking.
Oh, that's the Siemens.
Okay.
Yes.
I already
You'll,
asked
anywhere
about
you see those heating leases, it's in the town office building. the senior center, you'll see it in, are there any public works?
Yes, I think so.
That's what goes on. So that's where in year 10 of 17.
Still,
Still, yeah, same as the ones at the school,
Oh, yeah.
the Board of Ed brought you last week. Eastern Highlands Health District, it's Department 233. You'll see a reduction of $123 we pay per capita to Eastern Highlands. So there's a slight reduction there. Fire hydrants in Maine. Right, this one. I have a soft spot for this one. No change there.
Can I ask you to, can we talk about dispatch fees? Do you know that answer? Why is that going up so much?
I don't have that in front of me, but I think that was in the
Kind of
fire
spiky.
department budget that was.
Yeah,
presented.
that seems spiky before.
Yeah, that's under fire protection, so I don't. have
It's
the
under
answer
fire
to that.
protection, but I don't know where it falls.
yeah, it's on.
Right.
Yeah,
Under,
but it's going up 34%.
I'd have to dig to find,
Okay,
we should have, and I'll move on, then I'll come back to that, but it's outside of the number that you're looking at for me. Building department, oh, I'm
I
sorry.
believe that's a fee charged by PN.
It is.
It's not
It is.
something we can follow up. They tell us, if you want to go to fires, this is how much you're paying us.
Correct, and it also, yes, and then encompasses some money for animal control, and there's some of it is broken into the animal control budget. I just don't have that document right now in front of me. I didn't anticipate being asked about another department. Building department, a slight increase, again, the purchase service, that is the service we purchase from the town of Bolton for a building official. And then a slight increase in building permit support.
The, sorry, purchase service, do we know what that commitment is?
It's a 3-year contract, and I think this will be year 2. I think we renewed the.
No, I
contract
meant
last year.
just similar, the questions I had about planning and zoning. That's purchase, it's a part-time
Mhm.
commitment, I meant, do we know what that commitment is?
We do, we have a contract. I believe it's 13 hours.
You know?
and is that, who is that?
Well, lately it has been, and I apologize, I don't remember Randy's last name. It had been Jim Rupert, but Jim Rupert is now the
The town
town manager in Bolton. So they haven't hired, to my knowledge, a permit replacement for him yet. He was doing both. God bless him. And Randy was doing a lot of the work here. So typically we have, with our contract, we have the building official here, but then for continuity of services, the assistant works in Wellington as well to fill in any gaps. So we've always had that, which is fantastic. So we've never been without somebody. If it wasn't Jim, it was Randy. And that has been our experience, at least in my tenure, and I believe before.
And you said how many hours
I
about,
believe it's 13.
and it's where you're 1 of 3?
Yes, this current contract.
and I just got confirmation, the senior center got a CO in 2004.
That's a 4.
You're about right.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm into
Time
20.
flies.
Been here 42 years.
I know, but that's a good memory for.
Next department is a biggie. It is Public Works. So again, you'll see increases in all of the employees. And then moving down, you'll see some slight increases. Mowing, the mowing contract comes in conjunction with, or comes out of Parks and Rec, and a portion of it is in the Public Works Department. So we've added, we've anticipated a slight increase. Again, that's a contract that will go out to bid.
So the mowing contract for Parks and Rec is
A portion of it,
a portion of,
a portion of the whole contract is in here.
Is in here
So
as
you
well.
saw the Parks and Rec part, and then there is not, right now, 8375, we're anticipating 9,000 for next year.
And Parks and Rec has all the school.
They have all the,
School.
they have school fields,
Right.
they have River Road, the field back here. They mow, is this mowing, Troy? The green,
Yep.
is that what's encompassed in yours? The-
Yeah, I believe so.
The town green. It's strange that it's divided up. All right. You'll see a decrease in, we made some changes. Pump catch basins, we originally Troy had asked for a significant increase in this because the cost of that service we've seen is significantly increased. So the selectmen, I reluctantly agreed to go to every other year with our catch basins. So we put a little bit more money in there to account for the adjustment, but cleaning not all of them in 1 year. We were
We do
looking
half
at,
of them every other year.
do we have to?
Do you do
half
half?
of them and then the other half the
Yeah.
next year and then the
Yeah.
first half.
So there's risk there, certainly,
Yeah,
So you're increasing it for, why?
because the cost of pumping is, the cost of service has gone up. So we're accounting for that. We wouldn't be able to do all of our catch basins with the amount we have, so it's only half, but the cost of that half is going to be more.
So we contract that,
Oh yeah, we don't have a vacuum truck.
okay.
No. Tree removal, there's a risk, but we know we certainly have a significant number of trees. We had increased that budget to 100,000 last year. We had anticipated a much more expensive cost. Troy worked really hard to get the work done out on Mason Road and was able to come in significantly under budget. So utilizing some of that information and assuming some risk, we decreased the tree removal from 100,000 to $60,000 to offset some costs somewhere else in this budget. So there's still work to be done. There's still plenty of trees to come down. But the solution they use, Troy, do you want to talk about tree removal?
On Mason Road or?
Anywhere,
Yeah,
overall,
I mean, basically, we took a lot of ash trees down, so periodically, when I'm driving around or whatnot, we see them, and then I get a price for, our contractor to come in and take the trees down, so. There's still plenty of trees that need to be removed, but we've done quite a bit of tree removal last year with this, with that $100,000.
Well, what I'm wondering is the way it's tracking for this fiscal year, which is kind of right on for 100,000 spending. So I was wondering
yeah, I can't believe I'm.
how you'll reduce it that way, given that, when we discussed it and it went up hugely, we discussed this as being sort of an, a chronic problem that we were gonna have to deal with in the next few years.
Well, Mason Road had a huge hit, so we had a contractor come in and they priced this to be like $40,000 to remove the tree. Working with our contractor, we had a company come in for about $8,500. And they came in, they cut the trees, and we left talking with the conservation committee. We left the wood and the brush on the side of the road. Residents, homeowners picked it up, and the brush was for habitat more or less, because the trees were so dead. So it worked out in our favor. So that's where there was a huge savings. Because other than that, that 40,000 was specifically for Mason Road.
Oh,
yes,
like I was about to say, I can't believe I'm saying this, but that's one budget I wouldn't have cut quite so deep.
Yeah,
I know,
you know,
I was
when-
kind of thinking the same thing.
when I, 5 years ago, that budget was $25,000. So it has increased significantly. And again, this reduction was made only after having discussions with Troy about how we might be able to mitigate, and the bulk of the significant problem we had with trees was mitigated this year in that area. It's an ongoing issue. If we have storms, you don't know what you're gonna get, but there is risk involved.
Geez, they're
understand
really
that.
removing like a forest full and plus on 320.
Yeah, they sure are.
Jeez.
Yes.
I don't think it looks like that.
Troy, where are we standing with the Emerald Ash Borer infestation?
It's
Is it
still-
gone through us, or is it gonna whack us harder?
The ash trees are dying, so that's no matter what, that's eventually there won't be an ash tree in the state. That's just, it's taking over. So when I see them start to blonde out, that's when I get them, I try to leave them, not to.
Yeah, we had
cover up
that
the
discussion
tree.
earlier,
We did.
at the end of my driveway.
They'll be there Monday.
Oh, excellent.
All right.
Is
Moving on.
there, since you seem knowledgeable about that, is there replanting for that, or is it just?
They're
gonna be
saying
what it is?
the new growth ash is like somewhat resilient to it. It's more of the older, older ash trees that there's nothing to do with, they're just dying off, unfortunately.
Yeah,
And once that bug comes in an area, it travels. It doesn't just go from takes the ash. I've seen different spots in town. They were fine last year, and this year we're starting to have issues with them. So
Mhm.
those will just come down.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next page, continuing public works. The significant increase in this area is in gasoline for public works. The budget was $600. That was for gas for some of their small equipment. But with the unexpected change in vehicle for the Public Works Department, whether we had stuck with a truck and a plow or the route we're going now, they were all gas vehicles. So we've allotted for gas for that particular vehicle. So that's why you see the $3,700 increase. And then,
I'm sorry, Eric,
Yeah.
that's for how many vehicles?
just one. And, we haven't had a gas vehicle to drive, so there is some, there's a lot of unknown about how much gas we'll use compared to the diesel in the current vehicle he has. All right, moving down, you'll see an increase in lease payment principal. That's, those are leases for public works vehicles, and that is the increase in this year. And that comes from the CIP plan. I think what vehicle is in that this year?
The dump
I guess, oh, the new dump truck that comes in April. Moving down into snow, you'll see just a slight increase in the overall snow budget. Again, obviously, there's risk. You don't know with weather, it's unpredictable. We certainly would come back to this board if we had an extraordinary year. This year, we're tracking, since this 66,000 was done, we had a big, they were out last Saturday, and then we had a big storm this year. But I don't think we'll come anywhere near our snow budget this year. But these numbers are based on 5-year averages and cost of materials. And you see the sand reduced 14,000. I believe Troy said we have sand for a couple of years.
Okay,
We have a mountain of.
so are we
sand.
using it as in the mix? About what percentage it then?
We run 4 buckets of salt to 1 bucket of sand.
Okay, 25. 20.
And some storms you need sand and salt. It depends on the what's down, ice, right, temperatures.
Temperatures,
Some of that salt, you can't use in certain temperatures. So
I know there was a concern originally that it was, that it's a hard task to clean out the drains.
yes.
And,
Certainly.
but we've been doing that for years, but I know that it was deemed to be, that that's not the main driver in going to solid over sand.
well, it's basically with the MS4,
Right,
the state's basically pushing you to use, they don't want you to use the sand. So that they're basically pushing you to use the salt.
there's a lot of conflict with
Yeah.
what they ask
They
us
work-
to do and what they'd like
Yeah,
done from an environmental standpoint, so not surprising.
yeah, I don't think Deep agrees with the other side,
Right,
DPW.
yeah, MS4 comes out of deep.
Yeah,
So you'll see a decrease in the calcium chloride. We believe we'd be able to prepay for some, purchase some this year, and be able to take a reduction next year. The top of the next page brings us to the last portion of Public Works, and that's the road maintenance area. As you folks may know, we had a pavement management data done by Beta, and the recommendations there in order for us to maintain the roads at the level they are at currently, just for asphalt, curb to curb, no no drainage work, no curbing, correct? That we should be putting in and around $800,000. And I'll have you know that our public works director asked for that much money in his budget this year. And we had lengthy discussions as a board of selectmen on how to begin to deal with that, whether we feel it belongs in this budget, whether it belongs in CIP. I don't see them as long-term projects. I see them as the road maintenance we should be doing now. And I'll give you, for instance, we had roads that have been chip sealed in the last 2 years, that this project says now are ready to be chip sealed.
In the last,
2 years, and chip seal should last 7 to 10 years.
5 to 7.
5 to 7 years. So, you know, our roads, there's some issues with many of our roads so that you can chip seal it, but you're not getting the extended life out of it that we should. And then certainly, I don't think any of us were ready to take that big a bite. I would like to, but that's a large ask. An additional $700,000 in that budget. So the monies we cut from tree, $40,000 was put into asphalt here. We accounted for a slight increase and then put that $40,000 into this area. So you'll see an overall cost of $66,000. Just for your for comparison, this road maintenance budget is $350,000. That's what we spent on, what's the distance on Moose Meadow Road? A mile on Moose Meadow Road, and that should do all the crack sealing and any asphalt. So it's not gonna go far. You certainly can't begin to make any headway at this cost. That brings the overall public works increase to $73,088. Of that, 45% of this budget is salary. That's important to know.
could I just ask, given that we had that assessment done in the software, is there sort of a plan on, plan of attack that you're using in this, or planning for budget, for budget year, 24? And like, I know that there's been some talk about paving parts of the dirt roads or the existing dirt roads in town, and I'm just wondering, is that part of this?
Well, Troy has a list of roads that need attention. We aren't gonna get to all of his list. And that's what he believes in this year needs to be done. This money just won't do all of that. So we do have a plan. And I think there was a portion of one dirt road that was Kutchko Road. But whether or not that's something that gets done or not remains to be seen.
The reason I ask is because this was before my time, I think, or before my consciousness in town. And that's the dirt roads are kind of a hot button issue in town. There used to be a dirt road committee.
Yeah.
Because they're considered scenic, which I fully agree with when just the ones I've been driving down. And that the residents there don't necessarily want to see them paved because that makes them a smoother cut through to, like, Mason, for instance, is a prime one, to Route 44 and for, that kind of thing. So I think it's a hot button issue, and as you're sort of developing policy in a confined department that maybe has different views, because I'm sure it sucks during snow removal. What is, seeing the plan is important.
So any of that,
I
any of those big changes wouldn't just happen because the public works director said we're going to pave that road now. So that would go before Board of Selectmen. There would be public discussions. We had a discussion about potentially paving Mason Road. And that hasn't happened at this point. So none of that would just happen because we wanted to happen. There would be lengthy discussion in the overall town, and the selectmen would be having that discussion. But, plan overall for roads, we need to figure out what we're going to do with the data. Once again, we paid for a study. If we just sit it on a shelf and do nothing with it, and don't start taking care of our roads and investing in them and our infrastructure, it's our buildings. We hear it with the school buildings. Look at the building that we're in. A $4,000 budget to maintain the senior center. It's not much, but we need to start making some progress. How do you balance that? And with all the other things in the budget, that remains to be seen. But we have more discussions we need to have about where to begin planning using that data. The timing of it came hot on the heels of beginning our budget. So I think over the next 6 months, you'll see us having some real serious conversations about what to do with that data and where we want to see a long-term plan, which would go into whether it's operating budget or into a CIP. You all know there's been discussions about developing a longer range plan than just our 5-year plan. And I think that would need to go into it. So taking that data and utilizing it, the timing of it coming to us, I don't think was enough for us really to make firm decisions this year. So while I think it should be in here, you'd be seeing a significant increase in our budget because we did have it in. We had it in our original budget and it had our increase over 27%. So I'm not sure that's palatable for anyone, but we need to start to make some progress. So the selectmen will begin having real conversations about what that looks like.
So did I understand you to say that the asphalt budget is only good enough to pave a mile of Moose Meadow?
No, the entire road maintenance, which includes chip sealing,
Okay,
was equivalent to what we spent in drainage and
Yeah, that
road
was
work on
complete
Mason Road.
Redo because of
Yes.
the,
but the,
bucket.
right, so the money we have in the budget wouldn't even be able to address more than a mile of road and be able to chip seal anything. So with this small budget, we can't make any progress. And, you know, just so for comparison's sake, I don't have the exact number in front of me. We get from the state about $280,000 in town aid road money that should go towards roads. We use those revenues to offset an entire budget instead of utilizing it on top of what taxpayers put in, Wellington taxpayers put in for roads. So we've got a $350,000 budget. The state is giving us 280. We're not really investing a whole lot as, you know, on our own in roads where, you know, many towns take that money and set aside specifically for roads. And then put additional funds in. So I think there's room for us to discuss how we fund road work that needs to be done. It's not an inexpensive expense, but it's something, you know, we have to address. So it doesn't often mean much to the average resident if their road appears fine. But trust me, when there's a problem in front of their road, we know it. And we can't get to all of them, but we can't leave them like Moose Meadow Road was. Next department is the cemetery. We provide $2,000 to the cemetery, Wellington cemeteries for their maintenance. They spend about $16,000 annually. And so we just give them a very small portion of that. Transfer station, you're looking at a $7,535 increase. And the bulk of that, again, some salaries, trash removal, and that's based on average as well as the increase in our contract. We, this summer, I mean, any of you who go there know that we really kind of tightened up on usage of the transfer station, working with Troy, working with his staff, really making sure we're checking permits. That people are paying for any bulk dumping beyond the weekly limit. And we had a serious crackdown on folks that did not live in Wellington, but that were dumping at the transfer station. So we've already seen a decrease in tonnage. We saw a large increase when people started working from home. Suddenly, all of their garbage came to Wellington instead of a day's worth of stuff elsewhere. So it's a minimal increase compared to what we thought we would be seeing. And the maintenance, you'll see going up $1,000. Traditionally, we asked for about $2,000. Troy has some electrical.
Stuff, yeah, the heater and the compactor is no longer working, so.
Very specific use.
well, on the bulk weight, do you think that that's gonna taper off, given that it was sort of spiking during
I hope so.
COVID?
I'm not sure how much more we can all have in our homes. I mean, certainly the beginning of COVID, you know, we saw more use of the transfer station than we ever imagined. Because people were home and so they were cleaning out and nothing else to do. So it's tapered off from that. But then we saw increases in contracting from then Lily Waste down Casella.
Everybody's got too much stuff.
Too much stuff, that's true. Social Security, that increase is as of the current census of employees. Unemployment, we don't have any known unemployment, we budget $1,000. We haven't had to use any of it. Prior year, we spent $1. It's worth it, like that unemployment check. Health insurances, again, although we see a 7%, 7.5% increase, this is based on the current census, and we reduced by the one placeholder. So if there's, again, risk there. Pension fund, you'll see a $14,000 risk, and the bulk of that comes in the funding of the pension. We have just two employees who utilize this, and this funds that. The insurance line item is our workers' comp lap. Again, we are in the second year of a 3-year contract, and so there's a 3% plus risk. Miscellaneous, we don't have much miscellaneous here. That covers a handful of our GFOA costs come out of there if we've had a death, somebody who's been ill, we send them flowers, little things like that. And there is some funds in there for employee recognition, a small amount. Debt service, this comes directly out of the CIP plan. So the first bond is the payment on the library. And then the lease payments on the SCBA's for the fire department, and then interest on the bond. And then capital expenditures. We have nothing in the current plan coming out of 930. That, and then we go into transfer out to departments, and these are departments that you heard from earlier. Some of them are departments you heard from earlier. The dog fund, Parks and Rec, open space. The transfer out to open space is an item within the CIP plan. That's $25,000. The transfer out to capital reserve of $460,000, again, part of the CIP plan, which we'll talk about next. And the housing authority is a flat $2,182.
Right, and then the transfer out on Wellington 1, we reduced
That's
by.
that's not in this budget. That
No, I know,
that-
but I thought you were.
No,
going
I'm
through
only
some of
going the ones that aren't highlighted. They make up the selectmen's budget. So
Mhm.
those other items you heard from the fire departments directly. So within the budget that I'm presenting to you is the handicap vehicle fund for $1,000, $460,000 to the capital reserve, $2,182 for the housing authority, the dog fund for $26,835, human services at $73,654, and the open space from the CIP plan of $25,000. So that is an overall increase of $324,546 or 8.17%. And if you look at the cover sheet, which has the nice colored pie chart, you can see how that's broken down percentage-wise. And of that 324,000, 169,573 is a result of the CIP plan that you have before you.
Are there any questions from anyone online that's board members online.
I'm good.
Okay. Is Lisa on there?
I'm not sure if that phone number is here.
It ends in 1412. No. Jim?
Just said, he's good.
Oh, that was Christina.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, no comment, not from me, Steph.
Thanks, Jim. Okay. So, any other questions from around the table?
I have a question.
Joe?
Have you figured out what to do with the, I see you put down for an increase for the treasurer? Have you figured
No,
out?
that is not within,
That's not-
you're seeing the whole thing, but
I'm
it's not
looking at,
here.
right, I'm looking at the, not the department, the
We-
big picture.
We
correct.
don't, my office
Gotcha.
doesn't determine the budget for the
Gotcha.
treasurer either.
And could you recap for us, since it's been a few weeks, the 34% increase in human services?
Most of that is made up of the senior center coordinator. So it was partially paid out of ARPA. It was paid out of ARPA in this fiscal year. And so you'll see that increase. That's what that is.
There are other salary increases there though, in that?
Yes,
were
for
significant?
the, not for the assistant, but for the director, and it's just a 2.75. Nothing beyond, nothing beyond the norm. But you're seeing now that additional staff member at the senior center.
There was a director increase through ARPA, or, right?
I think it came out of this budget last year.
Okay.
Jenny's increase. It was in last, it's in this current fiscal year,
Okay,
so there's no new increase there
okay.
at all. No, I apologize, I don't remember which one it came out of now, but there's nothing additional to the 2.75 now.
And you all have I don't think that I don't think it's been shared by email with the whole group, but I just printed out this, and Troy and I were talking before the meeting began, this Yukon program where they're training municipalities around here, and some to really good effect, to reduce their amount of salt used in storm events. And Yukon's cut its own budget, salt budget alone by 313,000, 2,600 plus tons. So I thought you'd be interested because it may be, Troy, you said a couple of people have gone down there for that training, or they
Yeah,
haven't really
we've
gone?
done through like the T2 center, we've had, the guys have gone through like snowplow training and snow and ice removal.
At the in the Yukon program?
Yep.
Mhm.
is this driver training or is this, new equipment? Is there-
No, there's one just for snow and ice, and then there's one for
But
like,
it's training the driver, not how to put new equipment on there to spread it different or something.
no, they talk about what, like, the effects of the salt and how much, so
Okay.
much good, yeah,
Best practices.
their practice. Yep.
How many drivers are in your driver budget, or that line that says drivers? How many does that cover? Two, that's what I thought.
But we have four employees that drive. One is the crew leader and one is the equipment operator, and then two are drivers. So they're
Okay.
just tiered.
Thanks. Thanks. Christina, are you ready to go over CIP, or do you want to do that? Do you do that, Erica?
I can share.
Yeah, I was trying to find it so I could share it, but I can't
I-
put it on the screen.
You guys have yours from last week, so.
Give me 1 second and I'll share on the screen.
It's really hard to see.
Okay. So we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting, and I don't know if you want to go through line by line. That's probably the best way to do it. Is everybody okay with that?
That sounds good.
Okay, so just right at the top is the transfer to the capital reserve fund, which Erica just talked about in the operating budget. So that 460,000 is already embedded in the operating budget. Just for reference, this current fiscal year, we took out 245,000. So it's a significant increase, but needed to get us on track. So there is for the Board of Ed. So the line number 4 is the HMS ramp. That is slated to happen in the next fiscal year. So there's $95,000 because regardless of what happens with the school project, there's a ramp that's going to need to be repaired, and to get through whatever the construction time frame would be, either whatever happens. And there's also some plumbing that needs to happen at both schools, and that would happen in this fiscal year. And those both would come out of the capital reserve fund. And that's all we have for the Board of Education, not including the next set of numbers, which is the school building committee numbers, which are the big ones for the school building project. And if you look at each line, you can see like line number 7 is the note for the new school, which is 2.5 million coming out of year 1, but that's just the bond anticipation note. That's not actual dollars that need to be spent in that year. That's why it's put in the other category. And the actual like interest and contingency for all of that payment is for 200,000, and we have that coming out of capital reserve. So that's that. And then as you go through the years and through the successive notes, you'll see the different amounts that need to come out in each of the different years. The bond payments don't start until the actual bond payments don't start until year 4, where, you know, there's the big one, the $3 million is the first bond payment. So yeah, so that's the school building committee. And then if you scroll all the way back, we can move down. The next set of things is the fire departments, basically, EMS, and the top things that are in bold are things that have already been purchased, and they're through a lease. And so those are the different lease payments for those things. And then we get into some of the projects that are being requested. So in year 1, survey and engineering for 25 Old Farms Road for $110,000 coming out of the reserve fund. The next year would be engineering, design and engineering for $200,000. Wait, did I say that right? Yeah. And then Willington 1 would be replacing some hydraulic rescue equipment coming out of the capital reserve fund in this current year for $60,000. Then squad 113 would get a refurbishment in year 3 for $125,000. And then there's another big truck that is actually coming down, which is the replacing the Rescue 149. So that one is in year 5, but right now at $850,000. Our experience with these trucks is that they get very expensive. So by the time we get to year 5, it's probably going to be more than that. It would be my guess. And then the bond for doing the addition at Willington 1 and the Willington Hill replacement, we have that going in year 3. And that is really just an estimate. Part of the reason why we don't know the number yet is because Willington Hill has not done the survey work that it is slated for this year to pay for. That would help kind of put some scope to the whole project. So, you know, we don't know if 11.5 is the right number, but that's what we, their first guess is. So, we wanted to put some numbers in there to make it realistic. Then moving on, well, does anybody have any questions about the emergency services?
No, I just wanted to clarify that the numbers, when you get to the bond part of the SBC stuff on the, you know, the example or the presumption of planning anyway was that it would be K-8, no auditorium with the waiver, right?
Right. Yep. Okay, so moving on to Public Works. So same format here. The top items, everything in bold at the top there, are all things that have already been purchased, and those are just the lease payments for each one. Those also all come out of the operating budget, and Erica, you know, the budget she just presented, those are all included in there. So then when we get to the new things like the street sweeper, that would be a year one purchase for $100,000. Overhead doors for the DPW garage, another year one purchase, basically $72,000. Village Hill Road drainage and paving, which is something we've been talking about for a very long time. That's in there for $500,000. Erica's hoping to get a grant for that, a new grant called the TRIP grant. So we put that in for year two with the hopes that there's a strong possibility that could happen. Then there's the salt shed project that we have had in here for a while, to use a steep grant for, which, you know, as soon as that is, that's okayed, I think that's the project's ready to go. There's a John Deere loader for year three, and another dump truck in year three that would replace the 2015 truck. And then we included a bond of 3.1 million to do some road improvements, including Liska and Schofield, which are both two big projects that are we have good estimates for at the moment. And then the stormwater treatment program, this treatment chamber would be in year two, coming out of LoSiP, and the bus lot paving would be a year three project for $60,000. So does anybody have any questions about that? Anything there? No.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the library. So the only thing for the library that is committed is the bond payment, which we have been looking at for 16 years now, because we are at the very end and only 4 of these years have that bond payment in them. So it ends in 2027. And otherwise, now we're starting to see some projects being requested from the library for the first time. So there's entryway gutters. They've made a request to ARPA. It's on the list for ARPA to possibly award in year one. The building envelope, they need $80,000 for that, and they asked for that for year two. The flooring in the community room for year three. Exterior paint included for the windows, which is actually a very big job, which is another ARPA request, which is pending for year 4, and interior paint, walls and doors for year 5. So they, all of that is in here. Let's see.
Envelope work again. Envelope.
It's like the repointing of the brick, and I think it's some of the like, it's not really a foundation, but the exterior cement work basically on the building. Okay, so then for the selectmen, there's a facility study being asked for all the municipal buildings. That is being asked for in year one, and that's actually going right before ARPA on Monday, this coming Monday. The town office building common room floors for year two for $35,000, and the building security for year two as well. So that's all the selectmen have put in for. We have the assessor reval, which, you know, is sort of a perennial thing. We know we have to do it every 5 years, so we put a little bit of money aside each year so that when that year comes around, we have the funds to do it.
Did you have a question, Jim, about the selectmen?
Yeah, I didn't want to, I figured we could get to it at the end, but rather than interrupt your flow, but I was just wondering what the scope of the facilities, I know it'll come up on Monday, but what's the scope of the facility? Townwide study, what are we looking to achieve?
Well, Erica, you want to answer that?
Yeah, so taking an assessment of our facility, our buildings, and along with the needs of the town. And so it would start with identifying
Is it an infrastructure need?
Yes.
Is it a,
Well-
is it a space and?
So both, right? So first starting with the facilities themselves and a needs assessment there and repair. And then taking a look at a potential school referendum project would leave 2 buildings empty. One at this point would revert to the Hall Foundation unless there's a discussion with the town, so that kind of stands in limbo, but would exclude any future use of center school. So in order to have a full discussion about how all of these buildings could be utilized, what would be needed from them, we need to, know the status of them.
But is it auditing all townwide buildings, or is it, so it's the library and the firehouse?
Correct. The library was looking for separate funds, or ARPA, I think at ARPA, we talked about doing a study on just them. I had asked for a study, we kind of combined it together. We utilized a study done in a recent study done in a neighboring town. And the cost of that to utilize, to increase the cost from my original ask.
Sorry, Christina. Feel
Oh,
free.
that's okay. No, that's good. The only other thing on here is the land use request for the regulation and ordinance codification. And it's not just land use, it's a joint project with land use and the town clerk, and that already came to ARPA, and I think we've already approved that one. So so that one's, something we don't have to worry about coming out of the operating budget. And other than that, there were no requests regarding the old town hall or Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec is doing a big project down at the park with ARPA funds, but that'll definitely keep everyone busy for the next couple of years, I think. And then the senior center doesn't have any big things either in the next 5 years. So
The Parks and Rec is the drainage project,
yeah, it's drainage and lights.
lights.
And it started with just lights, but then we realized that in order to fix the drainage needed to be fixed before they could do the lights. So it's a big project, and they're just doing the engineering for it now. So and it was around $200,000.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? I think we could go ahead then, if everyone's okay with it, with Donna's revenue presentation.
Actually, can I ask one more thing before we move off of that, Christina?
Yep.
The engineering at 25 Old Farms, what's the scope of that?
So there's 2 steps to it, right? There's the design and then the engineering. So first it's just all of the preliminary things that need to be determined before they can price out what the project will be.
That's
So
the actual design or whatever the larger expansion is.
the library,
Define what the project is, no?
Define.
yeah,
the
it's,
project.
yeah, it's to like do drawings and all of that so that they can price it out. Right now, it's just an idea. They don't have any plans yet, so.
Pete, did you understand?
Yeah, the Wellington one has been working on this for years. And the idea is to get Wellington Hill and Wellington one to make sure that we're not overlapping costs. So we're paying twice for what we need one of, but that we get all the things that we have to have. So that Wellington one is about 4 or 5 years ahead of Wellington Hill on that. This is an attempt to catch them up and to bring them into line so that we have a unified plan. So the two independent plans. Cost more.
Donna?
So yesterday, we received the grand list numbers from the assessor. And that's the first part of putting a revenue projection together, because that is what is going to generate taxes. So this is set up the same way as the monthly report that you received. So this should sort of look familiar. The revenue section is the top section of that report. And there's the 5 basic categories of revenue that we receive: property taxes. The next one is the money from the state, that's intergovernmental. And then the next revenue category is license fees and permits, and that's our local money from the building department and the town clerk. Investment income is generated from the investment of our idle funds. And then other is the miscellaneous things like the rent money from the bus lot. So the first column is the approved revenue for the current year, FY23. Second column is what I'm projecting the revenue to be for FY24. So starting with property taxes, the growth in the grand list is $18 million. So to figure out how much that's going to generate in taxes, I multiplied the current mill rate, which is 31.27 mils, times the 18 million increase, times 0.99, because we budget for 99% of the people paying their taxes. So when you do the math, that is going to equal $574,000. So this is pre-Board of Assessment Appeals. So this is subject to the hearings of the BAA. If you're curious to know how much of this increase is from Lowe's, about $7.6 million. And that is in real estate and personal property. So if you want to just calculate how much taxes are going to be paid by Lowe's, you could do the same thing. The mill rate times $7.6 million times 99%, and you get about $253,000. So anyway, the $18 million is going to create an additional $574,000 in tax revenue. So that is in the third column.
You said 253, it's not 235
Hold
for
on.
Lowe's?
Let me look at my math. It's $235,000.
Thank you.
Yes, Peter.
So the 4%
Yes.
increase and property taxes, is that also mean a 4% increase in the total grand list? Did the grand list increase by 4% overall for the whole town? That's the percentage number I'm kind of looking for.
Okay, so the grand list. Okay, yeah, I see what you're getting at. So good question. The 21 net grand list is
Yeah,
465 million. The 22 net grand list is 483 million. The increase is $18 million. Now I have to do the math to get the percent, which I cannot do in my head.
that's the number I'm looking for, but I fully understand you're not doing the math in your head, because I couldn't either. But I was just wondering if we could roughly use that 4% based on the fact that the projected revenue is going up 4%, keeping an assumption of the same mill rate and the same collection rate.
Yeah, it might work, but I don't.
What
know
did you
if I
say
can
the
do
two kind of gross figures were for what fiscal year 22
that. Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah, okay, so the grand list, net grand list for FY. No, that's grand list year 22, fiscal year 24, okay, because it lags 2 years behind. So the number from the assessor is $483,751,710.
okay,
It's about 4%.
Is that 4%?
Yeah,
About 4%.
I was just wondering if the number.
That makes sense.
and what was the year before?
The year before, which is the 21 grand list for the FY 23 fiscal year, is $465,199,600.
Okay,
So,
and you already did it, Jim.
yeah, I think, which makes sense because the taxes are.
Taxes went up about, the tax
Yeah.
revenue would have gone up about 4%.
Yeah, then the grand list would have to go up the same amount.
Yep.
Okay, interest and lien fees, consistently, we receive $30,000. So, there's no increase there. All right, the state revenue is going to be less by about 31,000. And that is because the education cost sharing grant, or ECS, is reduced for us by 31,000. There's there's a little increase in state property, a little decrease in town aid roads. Those two kind of offset each other. So anyway, we're gonna be down 31,000 in our money from the state. License fees and permits. We're budgeting for a 3% increase, and that has to do with the reimbursement and recycling that we have already talked about. That was in the past credits on our bill. We're now receiving checks for that. The fourth category is the investment income, so we are truing that up to project $50,000, so that's an increase of 45,000. And other revenue, we're just keeping it flat. So that is totaling 500. We could say $600,000 more revenue for FY 24 than FY 23. And then the last piece of the revenue puzzle is how much fund balance does the board want to apply? And I just referenced the fund balance projection memo that I sent to the board in the beginning of February. And we thought it was looking like we might have $650,000 to apply. And that would keep the fund balance at 12%, which is consistent with your policy. To keep it in the range of 8% to 12%. So that is what it looks like to me today.
That would keep it at what percentage between 8 and 12, do you remember? You mean,
Yeah,
not carry over what it was last year, but would it, if we use the full amount, which if we use the 650,000, right?
yes, that puts you at 12% of the budgeted expenditures.
Because because not spending any of the 650,000 puts us at 15.5%, I believe.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is what the forecast came out to.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Donna. Are there questions? No? Is there any other follow-up or questions or concerns about going forward? Anything about, from the folks in the room? Did you have anything you wanted to ask us or anything like that? Okay, you're just witnessing here for, in case we have some questions. Anyone on the board who wants to bring up anything? I sent you guys a little primer on, just a little reminder, you have the documents and the calendars, but just about what's next, and we enter our deliberations at next Thursday's meeting. And for the next couple of weeks, start appropriations on the 16th perhaps, or we'll still be in discussion perhaps, and appropriate on the 23rd. I thought, depending on how much work there is to do with the budget, and the fact that we had the interruption on the 16th when we did the SBC presentation, it's possible we'll need to add a meeting. But that's kind of up to us as far as how much we get done or how much we feel we need to continue to discuss or ask for more information from the presenting departments. So you had something? Pete?
I do, this sheet here,
Yes.
are we gonna go over this next, or?
Oh, we can go over it. I asked Donna to kind of take
Yeah, I find this very interesting, that's why I asked, and I didn't want to skip it.
No, let's go ahead and do that. So
so-
he's talking about the 5-year look back. We've been doing 3-year look backs. And I asked Donna to do that at the beginning of the season. We did it for the presenters that were appearing each date. So I asked her if she would compile it, and then she added some years. So thank you, Donna. Yay, Donna. And, and it's just a quick, eyeball comparison of budget growth or by category or by department.
So the only thing that I know is missing off of this is the probate court. We still haven't heard from probate court on what our expense is gonna be on that, but we're assuming that it's not gonna be radically different than last year. So that right now, looking at this, these are all the budgets that have been submitted to us. The total budget increase, if we grant everything as everybody asked for right now, would be 3.4%. Is that,
Yeah.
is that
That's
the
it,
bottom
that's
right hand
it.
corner
Yeah,
on page 2?
But if you look.
right.
It's the, he's talking about the
But
bottom.
the only thing I'm not sure about is,
Here.
does this carry your updated number, Erica? Can you-
I think I sent it to you. I can tell you it's 3.4% has the.
Yeah, no, it hasn't gotten in there because,
No, it's what I'm
yours is-
looking at now. I sent it to you in just an email.
yeah,
But-
you're like, the Board of Selectmen budget is 4,295,000.
4 million. I wish.
I mean,
it was
4 million.
But you-
4,295,000, so instead of that 4,301, 4,301.
That
And
is-
then if you add in the probate court, which still isn't in there.
It's,
and
but she
then
said
it's in there.
placeholder.
Still-
you
Yeah,
know,
3.4.
The overall is still 3.4, 644,893.
Thank you. That was the number that I was very interested in.
And this has been, no, the library hasn't gotten back to me yet.
What about Parks and Rec?
Parks and Rec, he answered a few questions that were posed by Lisa. And I don't,
It's,
they were specific questions about personnel. And it's summer camp, they were for specific questions about summer camp, which was underwritten by ARPA in its entirety this year. It'll be half that way next year. And he talked about some minimum wage impact for, you know, the counselors and the staff of that. And then after the 50-50 year in fiscal year 24, that would go back to a full town operation, I think.
I think it goes down one more year. I think
Oh, does it?
goes to
25?
25.
Oh, does it?
So I
Are you
believe,
sure?
I believe so.
Okay,
I have to look at my ARPA note stuff. but I
well,
think so.
Christina might know that answer. I don't know.
So
About summer camp, Christina, do you
It was-
remember?
it was more than 2 years.
Is it a 3-year program in ARPA?
Yes. 3
Okay,
years.
so the third year it goes down to 75 town cost, 25 ARPA
Yes.
percent. Okay.
Yep.
Did you have questions in particular, Jim?
No, I mean, being new here, I'm just wondering, I mean, do you guys run this sort of a, you know, longer term analysis often? Because I'm, you know, I'm looking at some of these growths over 5 years and we're up around 40% for the library, 37%, 30% for Parks and Rec.
No, this is the first time we've did this. We've
34
done
human
this.
services, 30% ambulance, willing to, you know, fire department, the growth over 5 years is just a lot.
Well, people move their town, they want stuff.
I think we have to drill down on some of this
Yeah,
though,
the human
because,
services is mostly made up of that additional staff member. That's the
Right.
biggest driver there.
and that was a situation where we had a long-standing volunteer at the senior center. And the person retired and we weren't able to get another volunteer who wanted to contribute that much time to running the senior center. I mean, I'm using shorthand. I don't know if that's too rough.
Yeah, I
of an
think it
explanation, but-
brought to light the need to, the commitment to staff, the incredibly important.
I'm just trying to
area,
get a
but-
sense of, you know, what you've seen as a board, who've been here longer than me for trends and, you know, whether this feels like it.
Yeah, people
Well, I
move in and
think
start
they-
demanding services.
It's true.
Well, some of it is, but some of it is like the, you know, for instance, the ambulance payroll has really
Well, that's
increased at a
true.
rapid pace. And the request is 26% for that payroll just this year. So we, you know, as a town have to sort of figure out for something that's, it's not self-sustaining, of course, and it wasn't set up to be, but as those costs increase, more and more of them come over onto the taxpayer. So that's just an example. I mean, the library, I think they're getting back to us with some information. We will probably ask about the ambulance service. Is there anything else you guys want to pinpoint? I mean, Jim, you're kind of broadly asking about, you know, the overall growth.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get a sense of whether it's increases or just a historic lack of spending, you know, that where we're playing catch up.
I believe with the fire department, the ambulance crews, that increases because ambulance crews used to be paid below what minimum wage is now, but above minimum wage. So as minimum wage went up, their pay went up, and you have 2 people 24/7, that starts adding into significant dollars.
But that decision too is interesting because there are, for instance, I mean, I think we were talking about this the other day, like Tallinn has 11 ambulance staff, but none of them work the night hours, they all work days. So, but yet Wellington, significantly smaller town, is staffing 24/7 on its ambulance, and that the offshoot of that is we answer a lot of calls for neighboring towns and a mutual aid kind of give and take, but there's more give than take in some of those examples, as we've seen from numbers from Chief Moore from last year or 2 years ago when we looked at it. I think it was last year.
I think it's
Yeah.
starting to balance out over the last year, but I'm not sure about that.
Okay, well, you know, I was gonna ask him if he would maybe update those numbers, because the
So they
ones
started
he
putting
gave
out
us
every month.
before we were 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 for like Tallinn, Stafford, Ashford, all towns around us. The only ones that answered more calls than we answered there was the university, and, which is not a town, so, it, you know, it did seem like a more of a one-way street. But
We went to Yukon 2 days ago for that sledding accident where they called in like 5 ambulances.
Yes,
is that on the snow day?
yeah,
Yeah.
we were one of them.
Was that big toboggan?
I don't know, I just know,
Yeah.
I know they responded, or
Or
they were in photos
Yeah.
and.
4 or 5 ambulances and 3 medics, so whatever it was a good wreck.
Gosh.
Oh, go sledding, talk to stone.
Hey,
Hit that
Don't be
Stone-
maligning Yukon
Stone Line
students.
River at the bottom of the hill.
is this helpful to you guys? I mean, it's kind of a trend thing. It doesn't tell, you know, it just tells the budget increases, which, you know, tells a lot, but it's not detailed. So, I mean, we have to find the detail ourselves if we're on the questions and why that was, the analysis, in other words. Are there other concerns, issues, questions?
Steph, could I make one comment?
Sure.
And I think you had shared a little bit about your process moving forward. You've outlined 3 Thursdays, so the next 3 weeks to your deliberations. I just need you all to know that going beyond that would be next to impossible to meet our statutory obligations for the budget hearing. There's timeframes between your appropriations
I wondered
and the
about
budget
that.
hearing, and so. the
What
budget-
is the time frame?
So the budget hearing is
The 4th.
the 4th, and so your last meeting as scheduled would be the 23rd. We would need that time frame because a notice has to be in the newspaper for 5 days, not including the date of the hearing. So it would have to be published in the newspaper by the 30th, Thursday, the 30th. So you couldn't do that following Thursday. If you did the Monday, it would be almost impossible for us to get the information to the newspaper on Tuesday to be published on Thursday. They typically look for 5 days out. So if you thought you needed special meetings, I would encourage you to look outside
Before
of the
then.
Thursdays before the 23rd.
We probably would have to feel, I'm sure we would have a sense.
Yeah.
Is the train going off the rails a little bit around the 9th, the next meeting, or the 16th? And meet in between the 16th and the 23rd if we felt we were gonna need additional time. Or if we wanted to just do a monster session, but they get pretty monstrous anyway. And then, of course, we have the fun of doing line by line appropriations. So, which takes time, but isn't exactly a brain game.
I don't want to give you a false sense of when you can do this. and
Right,
we can meet our
right.
obligations.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have said the last week of March. I thought about,
My heart started to
I
palpitate a little
thought
bit.
about that, oh gosh, what's the advertising? What's the?
Yeah,
legal
that
line
that
stuff?
actual Thursday is the date it would have to be in the newspaper.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything else you need to clarify? Feel free to jump in.
That's it. That always gives me pause if we haven't been able to, you know, if we don't have the adequate legal warning, then we can't hold the meeting and
Mhm.
there's everything else.
So we have the discussion meeting. and we have-
You have 3 Thursdays, so if you think you need more than 3 weeks, so after next week, I think to Steph's point,
We
you
have,
think you need
the
more.
way the calendar reads is nine is deliberations, the 16th is deliberations and maybe appropriations. And then I believe, and the 23rd is as needed. So that's where are you going in? Probably presume that cement the 23rd, I would say.
I never remember going over 3 days
Okay,
meetings.
okay,
Probably just those COVID days when we could, you know, we had lots of time to extend, but they don't give us any leeway anymore.
yeah.
I mean, that was all, well, that was different.
It was very different, but
It
2
took-
years,
it took too long to do it.
yeah, 2 years in a row, we had those extensions, so you had lots of.
You were there.
additional
Well, you
time
mean
on
COVID.
board.
Yeah,
I mean,
it did feel
just-
like,
just the
just
fact that
because
you had
everything was.
Every line, every voice, vote, drag
Say
it
your
up to
name every
midnight,
time.
twice.
Right. Christine, anything from your end, before we bring these festivities to a close?
I don't think so.
Okay. Anyone on board in here who wants to weigh in on anything other than good and welfare? Oh, I'm sorry, we should do present to speak. Let's do that. Anyone present to speak online or in the room? Wait, did they all leave?
Robin turned her camera on.
Yeah. Hi, Robin. We see you're walking.
Did you want to speak?
You're muted. You're muted.
You're muted, so you can like wisecrack
Muted.
back to us, but you have to unmute.
I'm asking. you.
Okay. Sorry about that. How are you? Can you hear me?
Fine. Yes.
Sorry, my hair fell out of my hair tie. There was a question, during the budget, regarding the posted, the purchase services.
Yes.
When Erica was going through the budget and there was a question, I guess if it was monthly, I can't remember what the question was, but it is monthly. It's through COT, which is our land recording vendor. And there's three facets. There's the monthly host, which is about $1,300 a month. Then it's called E-Verify, which is something having to do with like the way they're processed electronically. And then there's a microfilm, and there's 3 charges each for that. And it roughly is about, it's like 16 and change a year, 16,000 change a year. And they've suggested it's going to be a 5% increase.
Okay,
Where's yours?
thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. It's always good to be educated by the town clerk. Thanks.
Thank you. Robin.
Were there other questions? Outstanding, okay. And no one's present to speak online. I don't see anyone raising a hand. Okay, good and welfare. Any comments? Are you guys doing all right?
Yeah. No.
Motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I do that with gusto.